We're on a mission to feed the future by helping farmers worldwide be more resilient, more productive, more sustainable for generations to come. Corteva Agriscience. Keep growing.
It's time for RealAg Radio on Rural Radio Channel 147 on Sirius XM. RealAg Radio and RealAgriculture.com is your home for insight and analysis of the issues that are impacting your farm business. Let's get real and get connected with RealAg Radio. Welcome to RealAg Radio here on Rural Radio 147, Sirius XM. Shaun Haney, your host here on this Thursday edition of the show. Thanks so much, everybody, for making RealAg Radio and Rural Radio 147 a big part of your workday. And, of course, today it's the Farmer Rapid Fire brought to you by Corteva Agrisciences. You know, cross-spectrum herbicides from Corteva. Checking all the boxes for cereal growers, cross-spectrum herbicides deliver grass and broadleaf weed control in a powerful all-in-one solution. You can learn more by going to corteva.ca, or I encourage you to talk to your local ag retailer. Okay, today on the Farmer Rapid Fire, we got a great lineup of producers. We're going to talk to Chuck Amyot at a new Liskeard, Ontario. Stewart Skinner is out of Perth County, Ontario. Sukpahl Bal is in Kelowna, British Columbia. And we've got Rob Stone coming out of Davidson, Saskatchewan. And our Corteva agronomist today is going to be Linda Hinz, who is in Saskatchewan. Now, if you have any feedback on today's program, we'd love to hear from you. Keep the feedback coming on that interview with Cody Blois, the new Minister of Agriculture. I would say he turned some heads. Some of you maybe don't remember him from prior appearances on the show here. He turned some heads. From some of the people listening to this show that I'm pretty sure have always been Liberal supporters to some people that are staunch conservatives. A lot of positive reaction to what we heard from the Minister of Agriculture, and we are expecting an election call potentially this weekend before Parliament returns on Monday. So we'll have to see what happens there. But if you missed Tuesday's show and we had the new Ag Minister on, encourage you to check that out. And you can also find that interview at RealAgriculture.com. The best way to give us feedback is shaney at RealAgriculture.com, or, of course, calling that RealAg feedback line 855-776-6147. And we start off this week's Farmer Rapid Fire in New Liskeard, Ontario, and we're talking to Chuck Amyot. Hey, Chuck, how's it going?
Doing pretty good. Yourself?
Hey, pretty good. So, what's happening out your way?
Things are good here. We've got lots of snow, and just weather's been cooperating so far this year. So, kind of hoping to keep that momentum going into 2025, and just excited about the future year coming up.
Yeah, you sound like you're pretty optimistic about the year ahead here.
Well, this time of year, I think we always are. Markets didn't react as poorly as what a lot of us thought they might have with a lot of the changes that are going around globally right now. But things are still looking pretty rosy for us. So I think we'll be in decent shape again this year.
Yeah. Any big changes on the farm for 2025, or kind of same as usual? That could be cropping wise, equipment wise, practice wise. Any changes?
No, just have more time to dedicate to farming this year. So, not that many changes, our way, and, just, kind of keep things going the same as usual.
What's in the crop mix on your farm?
So normally there's lots of oats, wheat, and soybeans. This year we're going to be adding a bit more, pulses to, offset the canola, just, for the differences in canola prices, and also disease pressure is a good idea to let canola take a break for a season. So we're going to be using peas and different pulses this year in our rotation. But other than that, that's just a small amount, so really not a big deal.
Now, some of our listeners are probably like, whoa, wait a minute. You said that Chuck was from Ontario.
Yeah.
Chuck's growing canola and pulses. It sounds like he's in Saskatchewan. What are you growing for pulses, Chuck?
Well, so we're looking at lentils right now. But peas will be the big one that we've put in the past. That'll be replacing our canola, I would think. But yes, to answer your other question is New Liskeard is farming a lot more similar to what Saskatoon would be as opposed to what Southern Ontario would be, and most listeners would consider Ontario more corn and banana country or wine country than what you would consider New Liskeard to be.
Yeah. Have you grown lentils before?
Not really. Not on a large scale, and
yeah.
It wasn't without its challenges. So we're hoping to dabble in it, but not go full scale for now. But we'd like to see what that could bring to the farm for sure.
Well, here's an opportunity. We can do is we can ask the experienced lentil growers that are listening, because there's a lot of them. If you have any advice for Chuck in growing lentils, okay, assuming the same conditions, what would it be? And you're not allowed to say run or avoid the rocks and things like that, of course, because you do have to harvest very low to the ground. But if you do have any advice for Chuck, we want to hear it. So send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. We'll try to get you some good advice there, okay, Chuck?
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah, good stuff. From a marketing perspective, there's some local buyers for lentils?
Not that many, but it's in quick conversations now. There's enough for trying it out and seeing where things go, and then seeing where things go. Like I say, right now it's just trying it on about 50 acres, but if we could offset different crops with it, it'd be a great opportunity for us to market something different in the future. Yeah,
good stuff. No corn in the rotation. Is that just don't get enough heat units or what?
That's right. Corn is a hit or miss. It's really, the last few years have been better with different varieties and such, but it's still an expensive crop to put in the ground, and our break-even margins are very slim on corn. So different crops take over for corn most of the time.
Has any of this talk about tariffs and trade wars and like that impacted any of your decisions on the farm?
Well, of course it has, and with canola taking a big tariff hit recently, it's made a lot of marketing decisions that would have been done maybe differently without it. So it has been, but I can't see that being different than any other listener right now. It's just something that concerns us moving forward, but it's been better than what we expected it to be. So we're hoping that that positive note remains the same, and we're staying positive on our end.
Yeah. So how far are you from putting seed in the ground? Like what would be your typical start date that you would shoot for?
So it seems like early May is always when we go. We can have 3 feet of snow in late April, and we're still going in early May, and it seems like there could be no snow in March, and we're still not going until early May. So I would say early May is really the time we get going. And historically, weather's been challenging, but it's always kind of allowed us to go around that early to mid-May.
Yeah. And what do you typically start with?
Well, oats are the most frost tolerant, so the oats, and then we go to wheat and finish with beans, obviously.
Yeah.
But those would be the first ones, and then whatever other crops we're dabbling with will go within that. But it's oats would be the first.
Yeah, it sure sounds like we're going to see a lot less soybeans. Like in the U.S., the market kind of telling the farmer to plant corn.
Yeah.
So it's been kind of interesting listening to some of the commodity analysts that we chat with, trying to sort out the market signals on soybeans and what people are thinking, and just I think the China factor is just a real kind of overhang there for sure on the marketing side of soybeans.
That's right. We're still putting them in here. They've been a good profitable crop for us over the last 5 to 6 years. So it's still an important part of the rotation. But yeah, right now they're getting hard to pencil in for sure.
Yeah, well, there's a few commodities that are a little that hard to pencil them out. At least you can pencil them, but it's not a black pencil. Sometimes it's a red pencil, which is the worst kind of pencil color to be using for sure. It's interesting. Earlier this week, we're expecting this, potentially an election call here over the weekend, but we had Cody Blois, the new Minister of Agriculture, on the show, and man, we got a lot of feedback on some of the things that he said. In your mind, Chuck, whether it's provincially or federally, what makes a good ag minister in your mind? Like one where it's like, and politics aside, left or right or center or whatever, just the characteristics of a good ag minister. What comes to mind?
Oh, that's a tough question. I feel like they can never give us everything we're asking for because farmers are historically pretty demanding of their ag ministers. But I would say one that first off listens would be the best characteristic, which we haven't had federally for the last at least 10 years. But so listen, a little bit of sympathy, and the rest seems to kind of, if you can get both of those hammered in, the rest kind of follows, I think. So, listening to to the concerns of growers or commodity groups, and a little bit of sympathy, and at least try to do something for us, and that's 90% better than what we've experienced over the last few years. Yeah.
I think the listening thing that's a good characteristic, but and knowing though too, like you said, we're not going to get everything. Right? It's a tough job with all the diversity in the industry. You can't make everybody happy either. I think you got to have some thick skin at times too.
Well, I would think so. I mean, there's really no way to make everyone happy. And, the challenges in Ontario might be different than the challenges out west this year, and vice versa for next year. So it's hard to have a policy. Canada's a pretty big country to have a broad policy. So federally, it becomes a little harder. But anyway, without getting into too much politics, I would say, listening to growers and putting the grower first seems like would go a long, long way.
Yeah. Well put, Chuck. Hey, Chuck, all the best to you this spring, and we'll chat with you when some crop gets out of the ground, okay?
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me on.
Hey, great stuff. Okay, we got more of the Farmer Rapid Fire coming up here on Rural Radio 147 Sirius XM. And, of course, RealAg Radio is brought to you by Corteva Agriscience.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Smith. Joining me now is Kathy Jordison. She's the board of directors for Genesis Fertilizers. How will Genesis Fertilizers help mitigate risks related to pricing, supply chain disruption, and input costs for farmers?
What happens with an investment in Genesis is that the price going up and down won't matter so much to the farmer who's getting their fertilizer from the plant, who's actually a shareholder in the plant, because if it goes up, their profitability goes up because they get paid at the end of the year what the profit of the plant is. The other ones just benefit because there's more product available in Western Canada, so it helps mitigate the price risk. So this changes the makeup of inputs in Western Canada in that the farmers get more power. For them, they then are basically controlling one of the big plants. So it kind of allows the farmers in Western Canada to get more control over their own destiny.
That is genesisfertilizers.com. You've got all the information there on how to be involved and updates.
If you grow soy or edible beans in Ontario, you know that Sclerotinia white mold is no joke. Yield loss can be devastating, and timing fungicides can be complicated. But did you know there's a new seed treatment that can help mitigate yield loss? Start the year off with your best foot forward against disease. Ask your seed supplier or local Agromart group to pre-treat your beans with Heads Up. Part of a complete white mold management plan, ask your seed dealer about Heads Up today or visit headsupst.com.
Up next on the Farmer Rapid Fire, brought to you by Corteva Agriscience. We're going to Perth County, Ontario, and we're talking to Stewart Skinner. Stewart, how are we doing?
I'm good, Shaun. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's great to have you back on here. Hey, how are things going in the pork business?
Well, it's a very interesting time. Our farm, we sell about 95% of our pigs to the U.S., and so the instability around the border has been really top of mind and has brought about some pretty significant changes for us, and I think probably some other pig farmers around Canada.
So what kind of change does one make in the pork business to insulate themselves from border issues? Like, for example, like on tariffs?
Well, the biggest thing, Shaun, for us is business-to-business communication. And we raise a lot of specialty pigs. That's our core business. So it's a little bit different than maybe some other hog farmers. But ultimately, what we've done or work to do is communicate with the various buyers in the U.S. And you'd be amazed, a lot of buyers throughout January weren't really paying attention to some of the border issues. And we've ultimately aligned ourselves with folks that were and were willing to share in the risks that come with cross-border trade, acknowledging that hopefully it's going to lead to a better outcome in the future.
What's a specialty pig? What does that mean to those of us that are outside the business?
I think the easiest way to think about it, Shaun, is at the end of the day, we're raising pigs that are sold in stores like Whole Foods, and not the local co-op grocery or Food Basics here in Ontario.
Okay, so but
that's ultimately what it is. It's a higher price point food.
Yeah. Okay. So would it have an organic label on it, or not necessarily?
Some of what we do does have an organic label, but that not necessarily. There's a lot of different food labels that fly around. The biggest thing in terms of basically everything we do is straw based, and not using any kind of traditional crate or confinement.
Okay.
So that would be, regardless of organic or not, those would be kind of the key differentiation points for what we do.
So now, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm going to get over my skis here, but you could maybe meet some of the Proposition 12 requirements in like California. Yeah, exactly.
That's one of the many audits that we do every year is a Prop 12 audit. And so yeah, anything that we do would be eligible for the Prop 12 market.
Okay. Now, yesterday, I was sending out some messages on X. I've been hearing from a lot of our audience about potential need for compensation regarding some of the tariff and border issues. This all happening at the same time that we're seeing some support in the U.S., mainly around lack of farm profitability. The market's going down last fall. You had sent me a message saying that you're not necessarily in favor of an ad hoc support program like that. Talk about the why of that.
I think ultimately it comes from, I really believe that there's nothing smarter than the marketplace. If the marketplace is allowed to operate as it ought to, with competition, and I think that farmers, at the end of the day, if we want to call ourselves business people, we've got to go out and do our best to mitigate risks. Now, I understand that's really easy to say and hard to do. And I know nothing about canola, so I think you use that term getting too far over my skis here. I know it's not easy to just realign buyers in a commodity canola situation like we were able to, because at the end of the day, it's a niche product that we produce. It's not the same as the commodity. But I think the overarching feeling that it doesn't matter specialty or commodity is we should never look to government to solve these problems. We need to look to the marketplace. And if there is a role for government, it's what can they do to enhance that marketplace. I've chatted with a few of my friends in Western Canada. And, here in Eastern Canada, the livestock industry uses a pile of imported U.S. soybean meal. So what do we need to be doing in terms of advocating with government? If there is a role for government, it's to help us figure out how to more efficiently move Western-produced canola meal from the prairies to Eastern Canada. Not not send me a check to my mailbox, because that doesn't help our business, and it doesn't make our industry more competitive.
I heard a similar sort of thought on your example you gave there, that probably in the past, because there's a lot of commercial flow of goods, Western Canada to the western half of the U.S. and similar Central and Eastern Canada to the Eastern Corn Belt, or down all the way down the East Coast, and we necessarily, maybe because it's not convenient, whether it's the Canadian Shield or whatever it is, but we haven't necessarily at times really focused a lot on east-west sort of commerce. And maybe today's situation of a thickening border is sort of enabling and creating and spurring that sort of, at least we got to look at this a little bit closer. That can't be a bad thing.
No, I don't think it is. And, it goes back to what can we be doing to enhance the marketplace versus government trying to play an active role. And wouldn't it be awesome if we just decided that every province is willing to accept each other's province's meat inspection? So, if a guy raising high-quality meat in
well, now
Alberta,
you're dreaming, dude. Now you're dreaming.
What's that, sorry?
I said, now you're dreaming.
Well, are we? I have never in my lifetime seen some of the public opinion numbers that we're seeing right now around positive vibes towards this idea of a Canada versus a bunch of provinces. Is there a vocal minority that doesn't agree with me? 100% there are. But the majority of us want to see Canada be successful, and we do that through East-West. And, that's where I say, why should if somebody's got a high-quality Alberta steak from a provincially inspected abattoir in southern Alberta, let them sell that in Toronto. Just the same as, if there's a guy in northern Ontario that's raising a high-quality pork product and he can be competitive selling that at a farmer's market in Winnipeg, those are the types of little things where as I said, I don't see a lot of value in government sending me a check. But if they could take a chainsaw to the regulations that get in the way of businesses just doing smart business, to me, that would be a big win out of all the upheaval we're seeing right now.
Now, there's going to be some people that are going to, so that makes sense. There's going to be some people that will say, and I hear this argument a lot in the U.S. actually, is sure, the money gets out to farmers and ranchers, depending on the program, but the real premise behind it is it's really a rural economic stimulus package, so to speak, as opposed to assistance to farmers. It's the idea is that money gets to the hardware store, it gets to the the local feed supplier. That for some people that's more of the goal or the push. I'm not sure if that's the most efficient way to do it, but at least that's the argument that I will hear from the audience when they listen to the two of us yakking about it.
Well, and I think there's no denying the multiplier effect of farm gate revenue, right? A farm, and when I say we're a small business compared to some of our non-farming, but a farm business with $1 million in revenue, the ripple effect of that $1 million of revenue is pretty impressive compared to some other, say, service-based type businesses. But I guess where I look at that is, great. Can I $10,000 in a check in a mailbox? Yes, that's $10,000 of revenue, of which I can put my multiplier on it. And maybe I'm a broken record here, but give me the marketplace where I can go and make a couple bucks a pig more, and I can guarantee you that it's going to outstrip any payment government could ever hope to send me. That's where I look at the true value of trying to unlock from a regulatory standpoint versus the idea of we can fix this with a payout coming to the mailbox.
Yeah, there was an article in Bloomberg that I'm going to get to on the Friday issues panel, basically thinking about it from a UK perspective, somebody making the argument that, the best thing that could happen is maybe just letting the poorest farmers financially just not survive. that we wouldn't, at the end of the day, we wouldn't notice any difference. And it's costing society a lot of money to keep poor managed farms afloat, which that is going to be some controversy in the the echo chamber. But we'll talk about that on tomorrow's show. So stay tuned for that. Hey, I want to finish up with this, Stewart. We had Cody Blois, new Minister of Agriculture. We don't know for how long because we're going to have an election, and we don't know. It's a neck and neck race, Conservatives and Liberals. But as of right now, Cody Blois is the Ag Minister. I think he impressed a lot of our audience, Liberal or Conservative. I got a number of different texts and emails from people. Politics aside, in your mind, what makes a good Ag Minister?
I think in the modern context, and shooting a bit off the cuff here, to me, a good Ag Minister in Canada is somebody that actually gets the Prime Minister's office to care about agriculture. Because that, I don't care what color you are, that's not an easy thing to do in today's demographic. So I think that somebody that can help, again, elevate the economic potential and help the folks that work at the Prime Minister's office to understand the potential there. That to me is kind of that. If you get that, then that would be remarkable. And I really hope we see ourselves in an election next week. There's just, the country needs it. And beyond that, regardless of who's in power, I hope we see a period of time where we get to building things. We can't ultimately we cannot control anything about the White House. All we can do is figure out ways to try to diversify our reliance on that market. Or if we're going to stay in that market, find businesses that are willing to share the risk of operating there. But I'm really hopeful that we see the next government of Canada take it seriously, that Canada can sell resources and we can sell them anywhere, not just the USA.
Stewart, thanks a lot for joining us here today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a pleasure being on. Thank you very much, Shaun.
Hey, we've got more of the Farmer Rapid Fire coming up here. We're going to head out west next. You're listening to RealAg Radio for the Farmer Rapid Fire, brought to you by Corteva Agriscience.
Growing corn? With Envita, you can cut your nitrogen and maintain yield, or maintain nitrogen and increase yield. Envita takes nitrogen from the air and turns it into nitrogen for your corn. It provides a right place, right time source of nitrogen to maximize your yield. Farmers who use Envita see healthier plants, bigger cobs, and less tip back. Envita is guaranteed to add more bushels to every treated acre. Start growing with Envita. Visit azotic.com to learn more. That's azotic.com.
Get all the information you need to keep your pulse crop healthy and profitable with the Pulse School on RealAgriculture.com. The Pulse School is a free YouTube video series covering agronomy, research, and more across a host of different pulse crops. It's also available as an audio podcast wherever you download or stream your favorite podcast. Check us out on YouTube or visit RealAgriculture.com. The Pulse School, brought to you by BSF Canada.
I'm Lindsay Smith from RealAgriculture.com. Join me Monday nights for The Agronomist, a 1-hour live and interactive show broadcast across YouTube, Facebook, and X. Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, I host expert agronomists from all over the country to give you answers to some of the toughest agronomic questions. Join us live or catch the replay Tuesday morning. That's The Agronomist with me, Lindsay Smith, Monday nights live at 8 p.m. Eastern.
Our next stop here on the Farmer Rapid Fire, brought to you by Corteva Agrisciences. We're going to drop into Davidson, Saskatchewan, and we're talking to Rob Stone. Rob, how are we doing?
Doing great, Shaun. Good to chat with you as always.
I'm not sure if I've asked you this before, but I was just thinking, like, if we were working for Tourism Davidson, what would be the big attraction?
Well, the big attraction, like on the book of big things that my kids always build, they've got pictures of them with all the little town things. So ours is the coffee pot. So we've got the big coffee pot that you pull in at, and it's got the mural and stuff like that. So there's a lot of people that go back and forth. So that's the touristy thing to go get your picture taken from there, and then you can go to one of our many restaurants out that used to be out in the middle of the field along the highway and go and have a burger.
So why the coffee pot? How did that, like, is it a coffee shop that just wanted to, like, live inside of the pot, or like what happened there?
Just kind of the midway meeting point for coffee, and that's kind of like the sort of, a lot of, like every small town, the coffee pot is pretty important to them, and coffee row and all of that sort of stuff. So it sort of developed as an idea some time ago, and they've kind of maintained that spot. So that's our little niche.
Nice stuff. Hey, how's planning coming for the 2025 growing season?
Solid. There's so many indecision things that I'm not going to change any decisions that we made last fall, and we're just going to do what we're doing. So fertilizer's ordered, canola seeds there. Pre-emergent chemistry is down for the lentils. We did call an audible, and we're probably going to grow a few chickpeas based on Phanomyces and those sorts of things, and that was planned last fall. Authority is down for those. They're ordered, and we're just going to do that and close our eyes and, I guess, just drive in the dark for a while and see what happens.
Hold on to the reins and let her rip. Okay, so you're an experienced lentil grower. So earlier on the show, Chuck Amyot was on from New Liskeard, Ontario, and he's dabbled in lentils in Ontario before, but he's got lentils going in this year. What advice would you give to Chuck?
Well, it depends on, I guess, what varieties and colors and all of that sort of stuff he grows. We're red lentil growers, and I guess the advice that I would have to give is just be ready to spray fungicide and be ready to harvest them when they're ready. And I don't know, just hope it doesn't rain too much.
Yeah, because more rain just means more disease. Is that the rule?
Disease and overgrowth, and then at some point you just can't have the coverage. And we've lost lentil crops to too much rain in the past. In July, where like 2016 we had 3 bushel lentils as a result of like massive rain and all of that sort of stuff. No amount of fungicide in the entire world would have saved them probably. So expect that there's going to be some challenges with them if the weather doesn't go in your favor. It's really just, it's a very weather dependent crop, and pick your ox and roll.
3 bushel lentil yield. That doesn't pay any bills.
No, it doesn't. And, obviously risk management's important with them as well. So our crop insurance coverage was okay-ish. We certainly didn't plant them based on that expectation, but at least that filled a little bit of the gap that year for us, for sure.
Earlier, you got the fortune. I've talked to a bunch of farmers already, so I just want. I'm just continuing the conversation. Stewart Skinner and I, he's in Perth County in Ontario as a hog producer. Him and I were chatting about should the government compensate different farmers in different commodity types that are being punished by tariffs from the U.S. or everyone's talking about China right now with canola and peas and pork, and often forgot about his aquaculture, but it's impacted too, right? Do you think there needs to be serious consideration of compensation for farmers at this point, or what do you think?
I actually think so. Yeah, we're affected by the decisions of others that really has nothing to do with what we're doing. There's decisions that could be made, I think, to get us out of this mess that aren't being made. And I really think that this is one of those situations where trade affected, tariff affected, impacted industries. There should be a hard look at how we can be compensated for trying to do our thing and having all of the other stuff going on around us that I don't know, it just really affects us. And it's unique. It's not weather based. It's not all of the other things. Like risk management programs really don't address the fact that this is happening.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody yesterday who said that really the BRM suite should take care of situations like this, but whether it does or doesn't, there's also a lack of trust from the farmer. Like there's a brand there that it doesn't work, and so
I think we have to lose so much money that for agri-stability to kick in that's not why we're farming, is to lose money and have agri-stability kick in. We had some pretty good momentum behind canola, for example. I'm a canola farmer, and you look at the stocks to use and all of these sorts of good market dynamics that we had going for us. In September, we got the first punch, and then the second and third punches have come recently. So, we don't farm to lose money. And that's the only way that the business risk management program or that end of it would work. And it's kind of what my thoughts are on it.
We had JP Gervais from Farm Credit Canada on Tuesday's show as well. We were talking about land values, and land's still going up, and the most I guess from an affordability standpoint, Saskatchewan's still kind of number one. Is land been trading quite a bit in your area, or what have you been seeing?
I think that I feel less appetite. There's less aggressiveness going on, people talking about it. I think people are pausing. Something like 13% year-over-year increase rate in Saskatchewan, I think, in the report. So, which makes sense. It's maybe starting from a little bit lower level and people are thinking there's some value there, but there's lots of reasons. Not every quarter of land is the same. So, some's worth more than others. So I think people are always wanting to buy that right piece of land, but I think that the decisions will be a lot more reserved, and I think the big deals maybe be harder to hear about now. They might not be happening quite as frequently.
Yeah. The other thing I've been hearing from farmers in some of my keynotes and speeches and stuff from the last month or so is just how much people have backed off on machinery purchases. Now we have been hearing here on the show a few farmers saying, well, I needed something and I picked away at a used piece, or my dealer made me a good deal on a new piece of equipment I really had to have and have been a loyal customer. But the numbers are definitely showing people are backing off.
Yeah, and I think that's the first sign of people giving second thought, is that you need land to farm. Maybe you can make do with another piece of equipment for another year. You fix it a little bit more, or you just make do. And that's been some of the decisions on our farm for sure. I think a sprayer was probably on the replacement queue for this year, but it's not. And combines will continue on. And you have to buy things. You need trucks to pull grain trailers, and you need all of those sorts of things. So you're not just completely total spending freeze, but I think you're stretching things out longer and seeing what will happen, because I'm just waiting for this massive market drop in the machinery that probably won't happen. But everyone's kind of thinking about that there ought to be something happen if sales aren't happening anymore.
Yeah, like supply and demand kicks in at some point, right? Like the what we learned in economics in college.
Yep. Drawing X's and lines and all of that sort of stuff on a graph. But the issue is I guess you have all of these external factors like tariffs and pricing in other parts of the world on new that changes that pricing dynamic, and who else can buy pieces of equipment with better valued currency and all of those things that it's just not a perfect argument to say, well, if people aren't buying it, it should get cheaper.
Yeah. Hey, one of the questions I had for you, I've been asking all the farmers this week. We had Cody Blois on the show on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And got a lot of feedback from the audience. In your mind, just wipe the politics from it. What makes a good ag minister in your mind?
What makes a good ag minister is that there are representative in cabinet. There are representative, like Canadian Agriculture's representative, to have good policy, to have good programs, to have a good regulatory framework or other enabling things that makes agriculture better, more profitable, families do better, and they're kind of our champion. And that's what you look for in a good ag minister, is to be able to be open to engage with their stakeholders and the people that are involved with this to create a better industry for all of us.
Rob,
that's what I'd like to see.
Oh, well put. Well put. I wrote a column going back, I don't know, it's a couple weeks ago, maybe it's even a month ago now, where I talk about the path of communication. So what we want the ag minister or ag secretary from a U.S. perspective. We want them to be a liaison from the farmer, from the grassroots, be that liaison to government, right?
Yeah.
What we have seen a lot of, and especially Europe is definitely in this camp, and we've got some North American examples too, of where the communication flow flips, and that secretary or minister is a liaison from government to the farmer. I bring greetings and messages to you here
I'm here
in
from
farm
the government,
country.
and I'm here to help, right?
Yeah, I'm here from the government. I'm here to help. The old Ronald Reagan quote. That's not serving the industry. That's not good.
Well, we've noticed over the past years all this environmental tomfoolery that we've been involved with our programming and stuff like that is being sold to us in agriculture or sustainable ag strategy and all of these different things. It feels to me like, we were doing our job as farmers and industry and everybody else that's involved in the agriculture space, saying these things aren't working, but that message wasn't being delivered properly, or it wasn't landing properly with the right people.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, bud, thanks so much for joining us here today, Rob. I really appreciate it. All the best to you this spring, getting that seed in the ground, okay?
It was great chatting from politics to seed. That was great.
I like it. Okay, we'll be right back here on the Farmer Rapid Fire, brought to you by Corteva Agrisciences.
Find everything you need for outstanding weed control in your wheat and barley from the cross-spectrum herbicide experts at Corteva. Corteva is proud to offer a wide selection of cross-spectrum herbicides for maximum convenience, effective resistance management, and customized control of your toughest grassy and broadleaf weeds. No matter what kind of weed challenges you're experiencing, we've got the right fit for your farm. Visit corteva.ca to learn more.
It's summertime, and you've got a lot of important decisions to make when it comes to your corn crop. Let the Corn School on RealAgriculture.com help guide you through those big decisions with input from leading experts in the field. If it's spray timing, disease identification, or any other field issue, the Corn School's got you covered. The Corn School on RealAgriculture.com, brought to you by BASF and Pride Seeds.
Let's take the Farmer Rapid Fire into British Columbia. We're going to Kelowna next, and we're talking to Sukpahl Bal. Sukpahl, how's it going?
Good, Shaun. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. I should mention that the Farmer Rapid Fire is brought to you by Corteva Agrisciences. So, hey, what's happening agriculturally right now in Kelowna? How are the cherries looking?
Yeah, for big difference from last season. Your listeners may have heard of the big freeze we had in January of 2024, and it brought the cherry crop down to about overall a 20% crop. But farmers all around the valley, like myself, we lost kind of our entire crop, so we didn't have a harvest or anything. So it was kind of the worst year in the modern era of cherries, and that's on the back of 4 other bad years with heat domes and other polar vortex events. So it's been a very rough stretch, but we're feeling optimistic that there's a nice sized cherry crop out there, at least right now.
Well, that would be a relief because, again, we have had bad weather events. How many of the last 4? It wasn't just last year, right? It was because there was issues before that too.
Yeah, our kind of story starts in 2020. February, we had a polar vortex that came into the valley and stayed for quite a long time. And yeah, on our farm that year, I think we had about a 20-25% crop. Bounced back nicely in the spring of 21 with a beautiful crop. But then just as we're getting before harvest, that heat dome appeared and really took its toll. And what we learned afterwards, it had a secondary effect in the 22 crop because the heat was so intense, it really messed up with the internal, nature of the tree itself. So that had a 2-year effect. 23 was a big freeze, and then 24 was the bigger freeze. So and here's the big thing: those are all consecutive in nature. There's no one season that you can sneak in and put some money aside for a rainy day and say, geez, weather's been rough, this is a decent year, let's put some money aside. We haven't even had that opportunity
on very expensive land.
Yes, not something to really great to brag about. The most expensive probably in all of Canada, are right up there. So in input costs, labor, all those other ongoing problems have been secondary to extreme climate, right? And what I've been saying is if you can't get past this extreme climate, you don't have a business to be in, to be worrying about labor and costs. You're broke, right? So
yeah, and I think
important to.
Last time we chatted, it's not as much about like, okay, what is the longer term the things we can do to prevent climate change or the terrible weather events. It's more improving the resiliency to deal with some of those volatile weather events. Is that have I encapsulated that correctly?
Yeah, and that's what the discussions with government. The focus has kind of been on what can ag do to make sure that we've got a cleaner environment. What are they going to do to do their share, which is fine. But as you know, and all the farmers know, these BRM programs are meant to protect us from what's happening in the environment. So there's kind of been a different focus. It's we don't go to BRM to say, hey, this is what I can do to chip in to make the climate a bit more stronger or cleaner, what have you. We go to BRM to protect our businesses and make sure that we can fight off what the climate's doing to us. So that's where I've seen that we've kind of forgotten, or we need to go back to, hey, a lot of these are 1990s, perhaps, the plans of these programs and how they're designed. But now a lot of those, such as a 5-year Olympic average on agri-stability, that doesn't work when you have extreme climate coming year after year in certain parts of Canada. So I've been really pushing for reshaping and looking at this through the lens of what we see now, not what these programs when they were designed.
Is China still a big market for BC cherries?
It is. It has kind of since COVID, and we've had the rough crops as well. But we've seen overall a little bit less demand out of China. Still, I think our second biggest market behind the U.S. But we're really excited about South Korea. We gained access a few seasons ago, and we've yet to have a really strong season to send a lot of fruit that way. So I would say, South Korea is probably our most promising market right now. But we would really love to be sending more volume to China as we've done in the past.
Well, I got to ask you. You mentioned the U.S. is the largest market. The tariff issues. How is that putting a scare into the fruit industry?
Yeah, definitely. I'm sure everybody across Canada, it's just kind of trying to keep up to date with the news. Is it on? Is it off? And what percentage? It's just getting to be a blur. But for sure, we are concerned about that. And our position has been that, hey, if the U.S. decides to put the tariff on, then we support putting the same tariff back in their direction. But it's interesting with cherries and how such a limited time window. A lot of their crop is early in the season. And our production actually isn't quite there. So they use Canada as a very strong market, and it is their biggest market for Washington, California, Oregon cherry growers. They treat Canada as kind of their home market for their fruit because they can service that in that time frame. Then we come on in the mid June right into September. And then we're trying to get into Canadian retailers, which can be challenging if there's a lot of U.S. cherries. But then we're actually sending a lot of cherries into the States to all the different chains and different options that are available. So, as you know, the markets are quite different, where it's very concentrated in Canada, few major players. In the States, there's a lot more options, and you can strike some deals with some good chains there. So yeah, it's going to hurt both sides, but thankfully the cherry industry has worked hard on opening export markets. I would say we're probably one of the most aggressive Canadian products that have had always a strong export driven business plan, and hopefully that pays off for us, especially if the tariffs do come to fruition.
Yeah, and again, what you're describing there is there's the two industries are complementary though to each other. Like there's some backfilling, and based on north south, the geography, it can be complementary as well, not necessarily just totally competitive, which is sometimes how this is all being sort of that's the way some of the narration has gone on it. But curious on labor. I remember a few times ago we chatted about labor struggles. It's a labor intensive business on a cherry harvest operation. How's that been lately?
Yeah, it's I was kind of joking with my family. We it's one problem finishes, another one appears, and what we've noticed more recently with we rely almost exclusively on temporary foreign labor. There is some backpackers and such, but it's really shifted towards the foreign workers. And what we're seeing with maybe these immigration challenges or more scrutiny on immigration, processing times are lengthening, and if you're outside of the SOP program, with the ag stream specifically, the country we were sourcing from, we were just told it's a 22-week processing time.
What?
So I did the math, and I go, well, that's kind of at the end of our cherry season. So yeah, that doesn't work for us. So I've reached out trying to connect with government and find out that how, and then when I look at a few other countries, Mexico, Jamaica, Guatemala, they're listed as between 2 weeks to 5 weeks for processing. So yeah, I've got some questions, and other farmers do, but I would say that also just the cost of being in these programs, flights have gone up, housing, all that. So if you want to, input costs of farming is a big topic, and it seems to be what is really pushing people to maybe depart from the industry. It is getting too expensive to farm, and the returns aren't there.
And some of those kids that are working at the ski hill in the winter, they're not that interested in picking cherries in the summer. The picking cherries, if you're motivated, I do see people that will make between $20 to $25 an hour picking cherries, and the nice thing is then you actually have your afternoons off because we're concentrated in the early morning. So by lunchtime, the picking side of it's wrapped up. So there had been a strong contingent out of Quebec, students wanting to see the rest of Canada, travel out here and needing some spending money. So that's just over the years just diminished, and then COVID really put a dent into it, and we just haven't seen the same numbers. But on the other side, there's things that we can be doing with tourists that are out visiting. If we offer them an opportunity to head to your local Service Canada office and get a agricultural harvesting or just a short-term work permit, that would be just a huge benefit, right? Because I kind of use it, we're fine with them coming into Canada and having a look around, but we are opposed to them putting cherries or fruit into a basket and making some money and paying taxes and stuff. So I don't see where that's not something that the government would entertain as an option for people to quickly find a position, right? And the on the other side of it, that they'd have to work under the table, which is frowned upon. Yeah, I'm right there with you. You can pick cherries in the morning, make some good money, and then go blow it all in the afternoon at the wine vineyards. Like it seems like
at the beach, Okanagan Lake.
Exactly,
it's a famous place, and I don't get to spend time there. Obviously, I'm stuck on the farm, but there's a lot of people that do. So yeah, no, it's we would love to see more Canadian young students or people looking for an adventure come out to BC and
why not
work on the farms? Yeah.
Hey, I got to ask you a question. We got a new ag minister, Cody Blois. We had him on the show earlier this week on Tuesday. In your mind, politics aside, what makes a good ag minister? What are the characteristics?
Yeah, good question. It's I think a good ag minister, if they can really get across to the rest of cabinet that without food, our country's nothing. Basically, is what that ag minister has to get across to his counterparts there. And so you need a strong voice, because it comes down to just that we've seen in BC the reinvestment of dollars into agriculture of the GDP dollars it generates. BC ranks last in the whole country, right? That's on that's more of a provincial level. But then, like with you mentioned with the federal changes, that minister's really got to advocate that ag is crucial, and this trade war is highlighting that importance, right? We've gotten so used to just the ease of food moving back and forth that we just take agriculture for granted. So, a strong ag minister needs to really stand up at that cabinet level and get more dollars and attention put towards agriculture.
Sukpahl, great to chat with you. All the best to you this spring, and we'll check in with you a couple months, okay?
All right, Shaun. Take care.
Hey, we'll be right back here on RealAg Radio. Farmer Rapid Fire brought to you by Corteva Agrisciences.
If you're applying a low-rate N stabilizer, you might be falling for a losing strategy. Low-rate products promise great results, but may lack the potency of higher active ingredient concentrations, so great isn't always what you get. Don't put yield at risk. Put your trust in proven solutions. Anvol Nitrogen Stabilizer, Super U Premium Fertilizer, and Tribune Nitrogen Stabilizer from Koch Agronomic Services. These products offer higher active ingredient concentrations imitator brands can't match. See the difference at defendyourn.ca.
The Canola School on RealAgriculture.com is your one-stop shop for everything a canola grower needs. Check out our free video series on YouTube for all the latest in canola agronomy, research, marketing, and more. Don't have time to watch? Download the podcast version of the Canola School on RealAgriculture.com or anywhere you download your podcasts. Stay on top of all things canola with the Canola School on RealAgriculture.com, brought to you by BASF and Invigor Hybrid Canola.
Welcome back to RealAg Radio here on Rural Radio 147, Sirius XM. We're going to finish up the Farmer Rapid Fire in Saskatchewan. We're talking to Corteva's technical sales agronomist in the province of Saskatchewan, is Linda Hinz. Linda, how are we doing?
Good, thanks. How are you, Shaun?
I'm doing pretty good. Okay, you're out and about on the road here today. I do appreciate you taking some time for us. What you're talking to a lot of customers right now. What are you hearing? What's kind of the mood? What's the sentiment? What's the thought? What are people preparing for?
Well, I would think not by any big surprise. The theme is really uncertainty right now, like uncertainty of the markets, uncertainty of cropping. Everything seems to be changing rapidly. And so there's a lot of uncertainty. And I guess I think about one of my colleagues. He always talks about what's in our control versus what's not. And that's where I've been trying to take the conversation to.
And agronomically, Mother Nature not in our control, but there are some things agronomically that definitely are in our control. So let's kind of run through some of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as we're sitting here now at the end of March, we're, looking at what's happening next, right? It's going to be starting seeding soon. And one of the things that's in our control is really, I encourage guys, get a seed test done on the seed that you're going to be planting. It's not too late. Yes, it's March, but, reach out to your preferred seed test labs and get a test done to understand what pathogens may be present on your seed so that you know what you're facing going in. Because the unknowns are what's, the soil-borne pathogens that seed is also going to have to face.
Yeah, and you and I were chatting the commercial break about this a little bit, and I think there's a lot of seed treatment that is sold early in the season. The soil's cooler, maybe has a little bit of moisture to it, and people engage in seed treatment there. But when we get to the maybe post May long weekend, a little bit warmer, soil temperature gets up. Maybe it's not as the moisture will depend on year to year, but because it warms up, people are like, I'm good. Don't need to worry about it anymore. I'm good to go. But we know that that's not that's always the case for all pathogens.
Absolutely. That is so true, Shaun. everybody has a tendency to, be hopeful. And oftentimes once we start seeing warmer, drier conditions, guys will think, oh, I don't need to put that seed treatment down. The reality is that, pathogens vary and the environment that they thrive in also varies. So some will thrive in warm, dry conditions of soil. Some will thrive in cool and wet or cool and dry. So ultimately, I see seed treatment as a real opportunity for guys to say, okay, this is something I can control. I can put it onto my seed and I can try and, offset any potential loss of my seed's potential at the time of seeding or as it's germinating. Because unfortunately, if we lose what we lose at that time, we aren't going to be able to make up later on in the season.
Yeah, I always think. I was just going to say, I think seed treatments are one of those things too, like where we use a herbicide, we spray it, we see the weed die. Seed treatments are, working underneath the soil profile, so we don't see all the activity all the time, and so it's not as visual for many of us.
Correct. It's not as visual. Plus, oftentimes you're not leaving an untreated or, all your seed is treated. So it's hard to know or not know if, you would have benefited. But it's the things that guys start seeing, like they're seeing maybe some patchy emergence or maybe it's just kind of spindly, not healthy. Those are the things that, if you haven't done a seed treatment, it's too late. We can't correct it. And, that's where being proactive and planning for a seed treatment and being committed to using the seed treatment, regardless of what you think the environment is setting up for, can really help be one of the controllables as you get ready for your spring. So, we've been talking Straxan, that's our seed treatment. There's, some competitor seed treatments on as well. And that's, the fungicide seed treatment side of the business. But there's also insecticide seed treatments, which, are a lot more visual for farmers, right? They can see that wireworm impact or the cutworm impact or the pea leaf weevil or, if I think about Lumavia CPL, like that's an example of an insecticide seed treatment that we sell that really pairs well with our fungicide seed treatment to give you that overall protection to, get your seed up and out of the ground as best as possible.
Hey, great stuff. Linda, this has been awesome. Really do appreciate you taking the time to visit with us. I'll let you get back to the road and get back on with it. But thanks so much for joining us here for RealAg Radio and Corteva being the sponsor of the Farmer Rapid Fire.
Hey, no problem. Thank you very much for your time, Shaun.
A big thanks to Linda Hinz for being represented from Corteva today on the program as well. Big shout-outs to Chuck Amyot, Stewart Skinner, Sukpahl Bal, and Rob Stone for being our farmers stepping up here to provide their perspectives on a wide range of topics here today. Now, we've heard from the farmers. Let's hear from you. Send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com, or, of course, you can call that RealAg feedback line, 855-776-6147. Thanks, everybody, for getting real and getting connected with RealAg Radio. Big shout out to Corteva Agrisciences for being the sponsor of the Farmer Rapid Fire. We'll chat again tomorrow. Cheers, everybody.